$500,000. That's how much the Ontario police were offering for one man's cooperation. Not a cartel leader, not a fugitive on the run, just a full-patch Hells Angel, and the highest-ranking member ever to turn informant. David Atwell. Atwell didn't flip because of prison time. He flipped because he wanted out of a life of drugs, violence, and betrayal. But leaving the Angels wasn't simple. One wrong word, one slip in the clubhouse, and death would be waiting. He walked the line every day, attending club meetings, rising through the ranks, while secretly feeding intelligence to a police task force determined to bring down one of Canada's most dangerous criminal organizations. Every handshake, every laugh, every deal could be his last. Missed the button? Go ahead, subscribe now so you don't forget later. David Atwell entered the world in 1965. Scarborough, Ontario, born into a middle-class family. On the surface, he seemed quiet, even unassuming, a boy who could have been overlooked. But freedom called to him on two wheels. Motorcycles weren't merely a pastime, they were his identity, his escape, and the skill that would shape every dangerous turn in the life he hadn't yet imagined. How far could a love for riding carry a young man before the thrill became a trap? By his teenage years, Atwell had taken a job as a bouncer, testing himself in rooms charged with tension. He wasn't the biggest man present, but he learned to command attention with intelligence, timing, and nerves of steel. Every fight, every confrontation, sharpened instincts that would later become invaluable in life and death situations. Could a boy from Scarborough survive in a world built on fear and violence? Soon, his talent and presence drew him into security work for Toronto's elite, guarding high-profile clients and managing volatile situations. The stakes were higher, the risks more subtle, and the need to read people became paramount. Each encounter was a rehearsal for the dangers that awaited in the outlaw biker world, a world where one misstep could be fatal. Was he unknowingly preparing for a life he couldn't yet see? During this period, Atwell's path crossed with members of the Paradise Riders, a Toronto-based motorcycle club. Friendships formed, alliances were tested, and soon a casual acquaintance became an invitation. By 1998, the club officially recruited him, sponsored by Vice President Douglas Miles, a crucial endorsement in a subculture where trust was the ultimate currency. Could he trust these men, or would loyalty come with a price he wasn't ready to pay? Even as he embraced the brotherhood, Atwell kept a cautious distance from outright criminality. Holding a private investigator license with the Ontario Provincial Police, he deliberately navigated the fine line between legality and obligation. The thrill of belonging clashed with the necessity of self-preservation, and the balance he struck was precarious. How long could he walk that razor's edge before the fall became inevitable? What Atwell didn't yet realize was that his skills, intelligence, and carefully cultivated trust would soon thrust him into the highest ranks of a dangerous organization. Every choice, from friendship to action, would ripple forward, forcing him to confront morality, danger, and survival in ways no teenager could foresee. Could a young man with a quiet start survive the storm that was coming? By December 2000, everything changed. Walter Stadnick, the national president of the Hells Angels, extended an unprecedented offer. Ontario biker gangs could join the most powerful outlaw motorcycle club in the world. For the Paradise Riders, it was a chance to elevate their status, expand their influence, and align with the Angels' network, or remain independent and risk being left behind. What would you choose if the wrong decision could cost your life? The Paradise Riders held a vote. It was razor thin, 51 to 49 inches favor of patching over. Atwell cast his vote alongside his friends, trusting those who had vouched for him, including Donnie Peterson and VP Douglas Miles. That single choice would soon ripple into every corner of his life, reshaping friendships, loyalty, and survival. Could Atwell have foreseen how dangerous this new brotherhood really was? At first, Atwell was excited. Going in with friends made it feel like an upgrade, not a leap into peril. He imagined the patch on his back as a symbol of respect and brotherhood, but the Hells Angels were a world ruled by hierarchy and fear, not camaraderie. Every glance, every gesture was a test, and one misstep could mark him for life. Was he ready to play by rules that weren't written? In a game where losing wasn't an option, early duties were menial yet essential: cleaning tables, serving food, obeying senior members. Each act was a lesson in submission, trust, and silent observation. Atwell's background in security gave him an edge. He could read tension, detect threat, and navigate subtle power plays. But every shift left him wondering, how far would his own morality be tested before he became what he despised? There were immediate perks. As a full-patch angel, doors opened automatically, seats at bars, automatic respect, and privileges others could only dream of. Yet Atwell quickly noticed the financial disparities, petty feuds, and senior campaigns aimed at forcing others out. Despite the chaos, he climbed the ranks steadily, proving loyalty while calculating the hidden costs of power. But each small victory left him with a gnawing question. Was the respect worth the compromise, or was he already losing himself? Beneath the camaraderie and perks, a darker truth emerged. The angels weren't just a brotherhood, they were a machine for profit, influence, and survival. Atwell was now entwined in a world where loyalty was fragile, danger was constant, and moral compromise was unavoidable. Every handshake, every joke, every smile could mask a trap. Could he survive this web of ambition and betrayal without losing his soul or his life? By 2002, Atwell's life had started to fracture. What began as peripheral involvement in the Hells Angels operations quickly escalated. He became a cog in the movement of cocaine across Toronto. One small transaction might have seemed harmless, but it carried consequences he couldn't yet imagine. Could a single misstep cost him everything he had worked for? It came sooner than expected. A woman approached him at the clubhouse, asking for drugs. Unsuspectingly, he complied and learned she was an informant. Within hours, several members were arrested, including Atwell. The betrayal was quiet, almost invisible, but devastating. How do you survive when the people around you could be watching your every move? For 20 months, Atwell lived on bail, a constant tightrope between freedom and incarceration. Legal fees piled sky-high, forcing him to move back in with his father to make ends meet. Each day was a calculation: how to pay, how to hide, how to stay alive in a world that no longer felt predictable. Could he outsmart the law without destroying his own life? But the law wasn't the only danger. News of his Hells Angels connection reached his employer. Atwell was fired from his executive security job, losing stability, income, and the professional identity he had built over years. The safety nets he relied on were disappearing. When the ground beneath you shifts so fast, what do you cling to? Emotionally, Atwell felt trapped. He resented the club, yet couldn't extricate himself without paying a higher price financially, socially, or even physically. Family and friends distanced themselves as his life became a balancing act of loyalty, fear, and survival. Could he ever escape the cycle, or was he destined to sink further? Despite the chaos, Atwell survived, relying on intelligence, caution, and instinct. But survival came at a cost. Every choice placed him closer to danger, betrayal, and moral compromise. Every day in the Hells Angels' orbit sharpened the stakes. How long could he navigate this world before it finally caught up to him? Atwell's first real opportunity to escape the Hells Angels' shadow came unexpectedly in the form of a quiet knock on the door from the RCMP. They offered him a chance to become an informant, but the reward was minimal and protection almost non-existent. Could he trust the law when every friend he had might turn on him? The risk was staggering. If the angels discovered he was cooperating, death was almost certain. The room seemed smaller, the walls closing in, loyalty, fear, and survival pressing from all sides. How do you weigh morality against the certainty of danger? Atwell wrestled with the offer. His moral compass urged him to do what was right, to expose corruption and violence, yet the practicality of survival screamed louder. He knew that the RCMP simply didn't have the manpower or reach to dismantle the Angels' empire alone. Could he actually make a difference? Or was he just a pawn? He resisted. Meetings came and went, with small tests of loyalty and knowledge. The RCMP asked questions, probed his awareness of operations, and waited for signs of willingness, but Atwell hesitated, realizing that one wrong move could seal his fate. Could he risk his life for justice without backup he could trust? The tension tore at him. On one hand, he wanted out of the club's control. On the other, he feared the repercussions of acting alone. Emotional stakes soared. Friendships, loyalty, family ties, and survival all hung in the balance. Could he navigate this treacherous path without losing himself completely? By the end of this first approach, Atwell had learned a key lesson. Not all opportunities are equal. Some are traps disguised as exits. The RCMP's offer was tempting but incomplete, and he would need to find a more powerful ally before risking the ultimate betrayal. Would he ever find the right leverage to escape the world he had been trapped in? The second chance came with a far more formidable player, the Ontario Provincial Police's Biker Enforcement Unit. They were running a multi-jurisdictional task force, Project Development, designed to dismantle the Hells Angels from the inside. For the first time, Atwell was offered a team capable of taking down the empire he knew so well. Could he trust the resources behind this offer, or was it another trap waiting to spring? The terms were unprecedented: $1,800 per week, $15,000 a month into a trust, plus $1,000 per week for any post-arrest testimony, with witness protection as part of the package. It was the largest informant deal in biker history, a chance to finally escape the Hells Angels and secure financial stability. Yet, with such promise came unimaginable risk. If the Angels discovered the betrayal, there would be no second chances. Could the lure of safety and money outweigh the danger of death? Atwell's first instinct was refusal. Morality, not money, guided him. He wanted to expose the Angels, but not for personal gain. Money seemed irrelevant. Justice was the priority. Yet the magnitude of the opportunity gnawed at him. Could he really walk away from a chance to strike a decisive blow against the organization he had once served? A friend's counsel shifted the balance. They reminded him of the debts, the years lost, and the chance to finally gain freedom from the suffocating grip of the Angels. Slowly, Atwell recognized that practicality could align with morality, that using the deal didn't make him corrupt, it made him smart. Was this the moment that would finally tip the scales between survival and loyalty? By March 2005, Atwell formally accepted the deal. The reality hit him immediately. He was now deep undercover, fully embedded as a Hells Angel while secretly aiding the police. Every conversation, every handshake, every meeting carried the weight of life or death. Could he maintain this precarious double life without cracking under the pressure? The stakes couldn't have been higher. This wasn't just an informant job, it was a war of shadows, one misstep away from execution by the very people he once called brothers. Atwell had joined the Hells Angels to find brotherhood, but now he was riding a knife's edge between justice, survival, and betrayal. Would he survive the ultimate test, or would the Angels discover the truth before he could strike? By March 2005, Atwell's life had become a web of secrets. Fully patched into the Hells Angels, he wore a wire during meetings, capturing conversations with members he had once called friends. Every handshake, every laugh, carried a hidden agenda, and every word could mean life or death. Could he keep this double life from unraveling, or would one slip expose him to the very danger he sought to escape? The first missions were a test of nerves. In September 2005, he recorded a meeting in which the Angels plotted to kill another police informer. Atwell's heart raced as he sat silently, gathering evidence while knowing he was surrounded by killers who trusted him implicitly. Could he sit still, knowing any wrong look might seal his fate? By April 2006, the stakes escalated. Juicy, an Iranian member and war veteran, revealed the existence of a cache of submachine guns. Atwell recorded every word, knowing that this intel could save lives or start a violent chain reaction. How do you stay calm while holding secrets that could ignite a war? The personal cost was staggering. To maintain cover, Atwell lied to his friends and family, feigned normalcy, and increased his drug use to blend in. Isolation seeped into every corner of his life. Even simple trust became impossible. Could he survive emotionally in a world where every smile was a lie? Complications mounted with Project Tandem, another police operation that inadvertently leaked information, sparking suspicion within the Angels. Members began noticing inconsistencies, and even close friends questioned his behavior. Atwell had to navigate tension while pretending loyalty, a psychological minefield. Could he maintain composure as paranoia closed in from all sides? Through it all, Atwell soldiered on. Each wire operation, each recording, each calculated interaction was a step toward crippling the downtown Toronto chapter from within. But the danger never abated. The Angels were always watching, and one wrong move would not just cost him freedom, it would cost him his life. Would he make it through, or would the shadows finally catch him? By early 2007, the walls were closing in. Donnie Peterson and Douglas Miles, two of Atwell's closest allies, began noticing anomalies in his behavior. Was there a rat in the chapter? Every missed beat, every suspicious purchase, every extra contact with outsiders could expose him. Atwell had to think, lie, and act faster than anyone suspected, knowing a single misstep could mean execution without warning. He deflected their suspicions skillfully. Anger, bravado, and the occasional calculated mistake painted a picture of normalcy. But beneath the surface, fear and adrenaline ran constant, a shadow he could never shake. How do you keep living a lie when the people you trust are scrutinizing every move? The Ontario Provincial Police knew the urgency. Atwell couldn't remain in the open. He had to be extracted, placed in witness protection, and shielded from the very people who considered him a brother. The operation required meticulous planning, one wrong move, and the Angels would have him before he even saw the door close. April 2007 became a turning point. Multi-location raids hit Hells Angels clubhouses across Ontario, based almost entirely on Atwell's intel. The seizures were staggering. $3 million in drugs, $500,000 in cash, and properties linked to criminal activity. Every confiscated item sent shockwaves through the biker world, and yet Atwell remained hidden in plain sight, a ghost among the chaos. 39 Angels were charged across 169 counts, including trafficking and weapons offenses. But justice would drag for over 2 years, a torturous period for Atwell. He lived under strict protection, isolated, and constantly aware that any leak could undo all his efforts. Could he survive the long shadow of the trials without breaking under pressure? Despite the successes, tension never eased. Atwell had accomplished the impossible. He was the man who had brought down a chapter from within, yet every moment was a test. The psychological strain, the moral weight, the constant danger, it was only beginning to shape the next phase of his life. Would his courage hold, or would the Angels catch up to him? By September 2010, Atwell's double life reached its most excruciating phase. As the star witness for the Crown, he walked into court every day knowing he would face men he once called friends, men who had stood at his wedding, shared laughs, and even confided secrets. Could he keep his composure while watching his past stare back at him? The courtrooms were a battlefield of emotion. Atwell had to testify against Donnie Peterson, Douglas Miles, John Neal, and others. Each name, each memory, each story pulled at him. How do you betray your past while fighting for your survival? Every answer he gave carried weight not just for the law, but for the men whose lives he now held in his words. The convictions hit hard. John Neal, president of the downtown Toronto chapter, along with Juicy and Miles, were found guilty of trafficking cocaine and the date rape drug and possession of illegal weapons. Peterson's role in the chapter and complicity were also exposed. Justice had its winners, but at what cost to Atwell's soul? Every day in court was a psychological minefield. Atwell had to balance truth with caution, revealing just enough to secure convictions without endangering himself. Outside the courtroom, his life remained completely controlled, no job security, no home, and no freedom to reconnect with anyone beyond the authorities. Could he ever live normally again? Even after the trials concluded on the 22nd of May 2011, the emotional scars lingered. He had watched former friends go to prison, had their eyes on him as both judge and jury, yet he remained alone under witness protection. Trust had become a currency he could never spend. Occasionally, Atwell granted interviews, carefully curated to reveal his story while safeguarding his identity and location. Each appearance was a calculated risk, a reminder that even a whisper could undo everything. Living in isolation, under constant surveillance, and in fear of revenge, he had survived, but the psychological toll would follow him forever. David Atwell's cooperation with law enforcement remains unparalleled in Canadian biker history. No full-patch member had ever provided intelligence on the Hells Angels at this level, exposing networks, operations, and high-ranking members. How does one man hold the power to shake an empire from the inside? The moral weight of his decision was staggering. He chose to betray a brotherhood he once trusted, not for glory, but to do what he felt was right. Yet the financial incentive, a $500,000 deal, cannot be ignored. Would anyone in his position resist the lure when survival and justice collide? Atwell's story is also a stark lesson in loyalty and betrayal. He navigated friendships, mentors, and even family under the shadow of constant danger. Every lie, every secret was a shield, and yet the fear of discovery never left. Could he ever truly let his guard down, or was every relationship a potential threat? Even today, the threat of the Hells Angels looms. Atwell lives under 24/7 witness protection, his movements controlled, his interactions monitored, his freedom constrained. Freedom was never the price. Survival was. His legacy is both heroic and haunting. By exposing a criminal empire from the inside, he saved lives, but at the cost of his own normalcy, friendships, and peace of mind. Could anyone carry such a burden without cracking? You're still here? Do what you meant to do earlier, subscribe. And as you consider Atwell's choices, ask yourself, could you betray your friends to save lives and expose a criminal empire?